Pat is with us here. Pat, great to have you back here. We're going to start off today. Let's dive right in. Casino discussions in Arkansas. I know we don't focus on the state all that often, so tell us more. What is sort of at stake here, and when did the legislature get to vote on the possibilities?
So actually, the legislature won't have to vote on this. So it's to your point, we don't talk about Arkansas very much. It legalized sports betting a few years ago, and it's alive, but it's only got 3 local operators, including Bet Saracen, which is it's a local operator. That's all there is to it. The reason for that is they have a 51% requirement for big operators to share the revenue with the local casinos. So that's kept everybody like DraftKings and FanDuel out, because they're like, well, we want to keep our money, and that's not okay for them. So it's a very small market, all local operators, and Saracen, this resort down there, has sent a letter to the gaming commissioners in the state saying, hey, you know what? We want to start talking about online casino because we've seen an influx of illegal operators or gray market operators, however they are going to be described, that are offering casino games. So can we just go ahead and offer this? And according to the chief marketing officer at Saracen, really all it is a really quick kind of rewording of a few things in the regulatory language, and boom, they can offer it. So this could be a huge kind of movement in the iCasino world because, as we've talked about a couple times on the show this year, there were some bills to legalize online casino, and there just was no appetite this legislative session for those bills. We're only at about 6 or 7 states that have online casinos. And so it's a much slower adoption than we've seen with sports betting. And Arkansas could be this, kind of push it over the edge. Maybe as more and more states do it, more other states will say, hey, look, they did it. Let's move on. And again, because of the same kind of tax share revenue or revenue sharing model they have there, it'll be these small market operators, which is kind of different and kind of nice to see. We talk so much about FanDuel and DraftKings. It's kind of fun to see these small operators do something. The CMO of Saracen said online sports betting is number 2 behind slots for them, which is kind of crazy to think about when you're comparing that to the Las Vegas casinos and stuff, where table games is still a big deal. So a small movement. There's no kind of time frame on this because there is an extra casino license in Arkansas that the gaming commission's trying to sort out. And the CMO of Saracen, who sent this letter and said, let's get talking about this, said it's going to be on their timeline. We don't want to jump in front of anything. We let them get that sorted out. Then we can discuss this. But this is a huge deal because of the gray market and illegal operators that are taking up a lot of sport gambling money online.
Yeah, no, and I think that Arkansas is just one of those states that's interesting because as the South progresses with more states going legal, they can take a cue from Kentucky, Arkansas, and some of these others as well. Okay, well, Pat, I've got a new bill in sports wagering as it related to. I didn't ever think we'd be bringing this one to the show. I'm going to tell you what it's called. You're going to tell me what it is. Family Amusement Wagering Prohibition Act. Never thought that would be something I would be bringing to the show. I mean, this story is crazy. Like I mentioned it earlier in the program, you want to go out, you want to have a good time, you want to go to your local Dave & Buster's. Now, if you want to bet on people at Dave & Buster's, there's a possibility of doing that. And all of a sudden, this is raising significant eyebrows, I think, all across the country. What do you think comes of this whole thing?
Yeah, so if you missed it last week, Dave & Buster's rolled out or said they're going to roll out a program where you can wager with people, that you're competing against in games like Pop-A-Shot and Skee Ball and what have you. They've partnered with a company called Lucra, which has a couple of these partnerships across the country and with different organizations to kind of gamify different things. And it raised a lot of eyebrows. We haven't seen a ton of legislative action yet because a lot of legislators are kind of already winded down for the session. But in Illinois, we've got 3 weeks left, and the chairman of the House Gaming Committee came out and said, whoa. it was a day later and said, "Whoa, we got to figure this out. We got to stop this because this is kind of a strange area that we're wading into with this." Dave and Buster's and Lucra argue and claim that the game they are offering is a game of skill versus a game of chance. The representative in Illinois who has introduced this legislation that would ban wagering and advertising wagering at these family entertainment companies, Dave and Buster's, different competitors of theirs, says, you know what, even if it's a game of chance, you can play blackjack with more skill or less skill, and everybody agrees that's a game of chance. And then he goes on to describe, how he's playing Pop-A-Shot against somebody, and it takes him 15 seconds to get a ball, and the guy next to him's getting it over and over and over again in that 15 seconds. What regulations are in place to ensure these games are completely fair? So, he says until there's some sort of framework in place that says all 200 Dave and Buster's have everything, figured out and everything's fair and everything's streamlined and the same, these are games of chance effectively, and this is dangerous to kind of, and weird water to wade into in terms of the gambling world. So I would not be surprised if we don't see more of these bills coming from across the country to kind of either put really strict framework and regulatory language over this, or even completely outright ban it like we're seeing in Illinois. Who knows if they get it done in these 3 weeks and what happens after that. But again, this is something that lawmakers are probably going to take a really close look at, and regulators, just if they can do it in the language that's already existing to kind of, again, either completely outlaw it or put some frameworks into it to make sure it's completely fair and even. Because, you don't want to get into strange business operations there.
Yeah, you don't want any skee ball fixing. That's
Exactly.
not one thing I'm looking forward to. Just make a small max bet, $10, $15. You'll never have a problem. That's all I want to hear. Okay. Wow. A lot of sports bettors watching this may want to move to North Carolina, Pat, because if you live in North Carolina, you got one of the legislatures saying, hey, look, if you lose money, you can write that off on your tax return. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah, so it's actually Governor Roy Cooper who has come out and said, whoa, you can't deduct these in the state. We need to allow this. So there's yet a legislator to jump on board of this. You can, if you itemize your deductions federally, deduct your losses from your winnings. But for quite a few states, that's not actually the case. So in Illinois or North Carolina, if you lose $500 and only make $100, you still have, or make $500 and lose $600, you still have to pay taxes on that $500. So the governor comes out, says we need to allow that the deductions from the winnings, and that's what we'll probably see a bill, I would imagine, come to address that and see where it goes from there. But I would, again, see a lot of states kind of taking a look at this if they don't already offer it. Michigan, where I live, of course, has fixed it. So I can deduct losses here, but in a lot of states you cannot in your state level taxes.
All right. Well, Pat, great stuff as always. Thanks for coming on Newswire. We'll catch up again next week.
Thanks, Craig.